Okay, for today's lab, I'll be demonstrating static route configuration in Cisco. So basically, what we did last time is we configure default routing. So on the default routing, you allow any network address to enter or exit your router. Okay, so remember that router forwards traffic. On the default route configuration, we define 0.0.0.0 that represents any network address. Okay, so basically any network address can enter or exit your router, or can be forwarded, or the packet can be forwarded on your router because the 0.0.0 again represents any network address. Okay, so with static route configuration or static routing, so we allow specific network address uh, for our router to forward the traffic. Okay, so static route allows you to define the path on the network. Okay, so let's start first with describing the entire network diagram. So as you can see, we have three network addresses: the 192.168.1.0/24. Then we have on the link between router 1 and router 2, we have 172.10.0.0/16. Okay, so we have a Class C and Class B network. And on PC2, or the link between router 2 and PC2, we are going to use the network addressing 128.10.0.0/16. Okay, so take note of the network addresses. Okay, so let's start first by configuring the computer. So let's start with PC1. Okay, so this is PC1. So I've already note on what IP you need to configure on the computer. Okay, so this will be 192.168.1.2. Then subnet mask 255.255.255.0. And our default gateway would be 192.168.1.1. Okay? So the 192.168.1.1 will be assigned to router 1, because that will be our gateway between the host PC1 and router router 1. Okay? So for PC2, so we have 128.10.0.0. So we're going to assign 128.10.1.2 on the computer. That's 128.10.1.2. Then the subnet mask is 255.255.0.0 because this is a Class B network. The default gateway is 128.10.1.1. Okay? So this will be assigned to the fast Ethernet of router 2. 128.10.1.1. Subnet mask is 255.255.0.0. So that is our IP of our router, and that is the default gateway of PC2. Okay, so let's start with router 1 first. So let's configure first the fast Ethernet. Go to the command line interface. Okay, enable. Then configure terminal. Okay, configure terminal. Then we're going to configure first the fast Ethernet port. So let's go to interface, fast Ethernet 0/0. Okay, IP address 192.168.1.1 255.255.255.0. Press enter. Okay? So again, the link is still not active. So if we wanted to make it active, so we are going to use the command no shut down. Okay? So still we are on the interface fast Ethernet 0/0. Okay? So next is we're going to configure the serial 2/0 IP addressing. So the link between the two routers is, or the network address for the link of the two routers, router 1 and 2 is 172.10.0.0/16. So we're going to assign 172.10.1.1 subnet mask 255.255.0.0 to serial 2/0. Okay? So we are still on router 1. We are still on router 1. So let's configure serial 2/0. So let's go to interface serial 2/0. Okay, the IP address is 172.10.1.1 subnet mask 255.255.0.0 because that is a class B. Press enter. Again, type no shutdown to make the serial 2/0 active. Okay, so as you can see, it's still inactive because the other router is not yet active. Or the port of the serial 2/0 port of router 2 is not yet active. Okay, so now we're going to add the static route configuration on router 1. Okay, let's exit for the global configuration mode. Okay, so we're going to add IP route. Okay, so remember we are on router 1. So the concept of static routing is you allow a network address outside of your network. So di ba as you can see, the network addressing for fast Ethernet is 192.1.0/24. So basically, we are still on router 1. We are still on router 1. We are going to allow network addresses, a specific network address, outside of this router. Okay? But remember that we only allow network address which do have hosts or computers or devices which sends data or packet. So the 172.10.0.0/16 will not be included because there's no device in between, or there's no host or device which will send packet to the network. So we only need to allow the 128.10.0.0/16 to enter and exit or to be forwarded on router 1. So for static routing, the command here is IP route, then the network address, let's say 128.10.10.0.0 with the subnet mask 255.255.0.0. Okay, so this is the network address. Okay, this is the network address. Now we're going to add the interface where the network the packet will exit on its own network. Okay, will exit on its own network. So in this case, this is 128.10.0.0. So it will the packet will be forwarded to router 2, and the exit interface is the serial 2/0 of router 2. But this time we're going to use the IP address. So remember, we're going to use the exit interface of a particular network address outside of the network of the source of the source router or the source LAN, okay, or the source host. Okay, so this is 128.10.0.0. The interface would be 172.10.1.2. So we're going to add 172.10.1.2. Okay, so we already added the static route on router 1. Okay, so next is we're going to configure router 2. This is router 2. So go to the command line interface, enable, configure, terminal. Let's start first with the fast Ethernet interface. Fast Ethernet 0/0. Oops. Interface fast Ethernet 0/0. Okay, so the IP address is IP address 128.10.1.1. So with the subnet mask 255.255.0.0. Enter. Then again, the link is still not active. So let's type no shutdown. So make sure that the link is active. So just type no shutdown. Okay. So next is we're going to configure router 2, the serial port 2/0 on router 2. So interface serial 2/0. So the IP address is 172.10.1.2. Subnet mask 255.255.0.0. Okay, no shutdown again. Okay, no shutdown. To make the link active. Okay, so we haven't configured the static routing, the static route configuration. So let's add a static route configuration. So IP route. Okay, so we are on router 2. So basically, again, we are going to allow a network address outside of router 2. Outside of router 2. And in this case, the network address outside of router 2 is 192.168.1.0/24. Network address. Okay, and it will exit in this network. It will exit on router 1 using serial 20 with an IP address 172.10.1.1. Okay, again, we don't need to add the 172.0.0.0/16 because it's not necessary because there's no host or device that will send packet on the network. Okay, so in this case, this is the only network address that will send packet to router 2. Okay, so the 192.168.1.0, the router is router 1. The exit interface is serial 20, which do have the IP address 172.10.1.1 with the subnet mask 255.255.0.0. So that will be the IP route configuration. IP route 192.168.1.0 subnet mask 255.255.255.0 because that is a class C. So again, the IP address of the exit interface of router 1 where the network address is found is 172.10, 172.10.1.1. Press enter. Okay, so you now have, you already configured the network with static route configuration. So again, let's save the configuration. Let's exit. Copy. copy running config start up config. Okay, so let's save, let's go back to router 1. Let's exit to the privilege mode. Copy running dash config slash start up dash config. Okay, so let's try to ping from PC1. From PC1, let's try to ping 128.10.1.2, the computer on the other side. Okay, so there's a reply, meaning there's a connectivity. So basically, we have a request timeout because when you configure, sometimes it needs to take time for the routers to update on its routing table. So basically, that's how you do static routing in Cisco. So always remember again, in static route, you configure the network address outside of a particular router, and reminder that take note of the exit interface where the network address comes from. Okay, so that's static route configuration. So you define the path on the network. Okay, so that will be my demonstration of static route configuration. So just do the lab activity on your canvas.